In our lives, there are people that are malicious. It's just a way of life. Sometimes things happen that hurt or harm us, and it's completely unintentional. But the reality is, people can become bitter, revengeful, they can have anger, they can set out to intentionally harm or hurt somebody else. When we come to the Summer of Praise, we turn to Psalms chapter 35. And here, King David writes a prayer that you and I may join in praying sometimes also. It is about dealing with malicious people. They're jealous, they're revengeful, they're bitter. There's something in their heart that is very evil and very wicked. They put a target on your back. Some would say a target on their forehead. And you're not imagining things. They're actually out to try to get you. Here's a prayer that David prays and God answers. It's found in Psalms chapter 35. Put on your armor and stand up with your shield. Take it up. Prepare for battle and come to my aid. I did no wrong, but they laid a trap for me. I did no wrong, but they dug a pit that I would fall in, be harmed, that they could catch me and hurt me. Let sudden destruction come upon them. Let them be caught in the trap they set for me. Let them be destroyed in the pit they dug for me. May those who rejoice at my troubles be humiliated and disgraced. May those who triumph over me be covered with shame and dishonored. Not only does David pray this prayer, but God answers this prayer. The Bible is filled with stories that you know, of how God always brings victory into the lives of the follower of Almighty God. Take the book of Genesis. There was a young boy, you remember. He's 17 years old when God gives him a dream. His name, Joseph. But his brothers are jealous. They're filled with envy. Their hearts grow hard and cold. You know the story. Well, when he is sold into slavery, he's on a very, very long journey. But God is going to turn things around, just like in the life of King David. And by the time you come to the end of the story in Genesis chapter 50, Joseph becomes a great leader down in Egypt. His brothers are filled with fear. They think that now retaliation is going to come to them. But Joseph says some of the most powerful words you'll find in God's book of promises. He says to his brothers, "What you did to me maliciously, you intended to hurt me and to harm me, but God turned it around for good." How about the book of Esther and a man named Mordecai? Haman put a target on the forehead of Mordecai. He even built gallows to execute Mordecai. But once again, God turned it around. And those gallows not only did not take the life of Mordecai, but God heard the prayers of Mordecai, and Haman lost his life on the very trap or the very gallows that he had meant for the destruction of Mordecai. And what about in the book of Daniel? Late in Daniel's life, the king makes an edict. There are people that were out to get Daniel. And as a result, Daniel was thrown into the lion's den. They had intended to kill, destroy Daniel. The king was saddened that this had to happen, but he had already written the edict and he couldn't change it. That night, Daniel spent in the lion's den. He slept with peace and grace in his heart. In the morning, the king came out not knowing what to expect, and Daniel greeted the king by saying, Good morning. He was alive. God's hand had kept him in the lion's den. Malicious people are going to pay a price. They're going to pay a price just like Haman. And in the story of Daniel in the lion's den, all of those people that maliciously targeted God's anointed, the king threw them in the lion's den, and they were ripped to shreds. The prayer of Psalms 35 is filled with hope and God's promises. God's going to see you through it. God's going to keep you. God's going to keep you from the one that intentionally, maliciously sets out to destroy you. He's watching over you and I. You be blessed today. It's the summer of praise, and we are reading chapter by chapter each and every morning.